violent crime.
Close. Fatal.
Wait a minute. Who am I here?
That real estate thing.
Yes. The bodies in the houses. From what I read, it was a brutal scene. How does that make you feel?
I think they deserved it. Come again? You heard me. I said they deserved it. They got what they probably deserved.
How the hell do you figure that? What do you base that on?
Pretty expensive homes they died in. What gave them the right?
To what, Harry?
To a house. To live like that. Spend that money. A lot of people out there wish they just had something to eat.
Wait a second. Were you familiar personally with any of the deceased? Hello?
What's that got to do with it?
I'd say everything. If not, how can you begin to make instantaneous judgments about people who were murdered, horrifically slaughtered for no apparent reason?
Don't get so worked up, Doc. It's just one man's opinion.
Hi, this is Larry Zerner from Friday the 13th, Part 3, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode 271. And this time we are covering a film that could cause a housing crash, perhaps. Nathan has chosen the 1987 slasher Open House. And Nathan, are you excited to be covering this one?
Yes, I'm very excited to discuss Open House.
Why?
Because you're all going to love it.
Why?
For love.
Did you read my review of it from 10 years ago?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you're going to change your mind this time, Justin.
Well, let's see. You rub your crystal balls and see what happens. But it wouldn't be the first time I've done a 180 on a film. So let's see. But anyway, you doing okay?
Yes, I am doing fairly well. Nice weather, so.
Okay. Well, it's very English of you, Nathan, to talk about the weather. It's a bit of an obsession with English. Is it an obsession with the Irish?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because we're known for it. Well, I mean, not for where I live at the moment now, because it's sunny and it's clear and a lovely day. But I think it's pissing down in England. So, but anyway, apart from that, Erik, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited to talk about Open House.
I can tell by the cadence of your voice there that you're frothing at the bit to get your opinion in on that movie, I think we can call it. So, and Joseph, I bet I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice for this episode.
Nice weather, Nathan. You think we're having nice weather?
Is that Simpsons?
No, it's Loaded Weapon.
I see. Okay.
Loaded Weapon 1.
Yeah, Part 1.
And there is no Part 2.
Well, and there probably wasn't an Open House 2, I don't think. Although who knows? Maybe someone will come along and retroactively make a sequel to it. But before we get on to Open House, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, as you're taking us to see an Open House, let's see what else you've been watching recently.
I watched Barbarian. I really liked it. Now, granted, I read absolutely nothing about it. I didn't even watch a trailer. Like, I totally went into this movie knowing nothing. And, I liked it because it had, some unexpected moments. Just to give a basic plot line, this woman shows up to an Airbnb and a man is already there, and it's like they've double booked it. And so they kind of have this awkward dialogue together, and she ends up, because it's such a stormy night in a bad neighborhood, staying the night, and from there a bunch of crazy things happen. I'll just leave it at that. But I enjoyed it. I thought it had a fun cast. It's got some creepy moments, and the villain I thought was pretty scary. So there's that too. You guys seen it?
Yeah.
And what did you think, Erik?
I was underwhelmed, to be honest. It arrived like Nathan. I didn't really know anything about the film apart from the fact that it was getting these awesome reviews and people were saying it's full of surprises and it's amazing. And I watched it, and whilst I thought it was entertaining, I didn't find anything remotely surprising in the film, or anything fresh or original. I just don't get the fuss myself. Whilst I thought it was an entertaining film, I thought it was very par for the course, and I've seen better new releases this week than Barbarian, so that's my tuppence.
What about you, Joseph? Have you caught up with Barbarian yet?
No, not yet. I really want to, but no, not yet.
Okay. I caught it last week, I think, and I kind of on the side of your opinion, Erik, on this, that I was expecting something more just because of the reviews saying how incredible it was. So I was kind of surprised that, I mean, it was perfectly serviceable as a film and it had some twists in it, and without giving anything away, it was kind of, it was a fun ride. But I think, made the mistake of listening to the hype, perhaps. And I think if it was just something I stumbled across, I probably would have enjoyed it more, perhaps.
I agree. That's probably what happened with me. Is just that I was expecting something out of this world, whereas this, as I said, it just felt kind of par for the course.
I mean, to me, it reminded me of a film like Don't Breathe, which was, again, a fine film, a fun film, but it didn't offer me anything more than something like that, as far as kind of once it wasn't this kind of what they call it, kind of Russian egg or whatever. No, what they like we peel away all the different layers and there's something like a Russian doll. Sorry, of a movie.
Matryoshka doll.
That's the one. That's what I'm thinking of. So having said that, it was. I think if you go into it, Joseph, kind of with your expectations not kind of sky high, then you probably will enjoy it, because it is a fun film. It's just not.
It is, yeah.
It's just not this kind of when I was hearing about it from all the critics, a lot of people online going, you have to see this film. It's amazing, blah blah blah. I was expecting something else, and I think that's probably my own fault as well of having my expectations too high.
So let me see if I got this right. You and Erik, Justin, you thought it was okay, but it wasn't anything special. But I should go into it because it's a fun film.
Yeah,
basically.
So why should I waste my time if you barely liked it?
Well, no, I did like it, but I don't think it didn't live up to the hype, because it's getting a lot of hype over here as like mainstream critics are fawning over it for some reason.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
But it's just I kept on expecting all the way through that there was going to be this kind of amazing volte-face, kind of it was going to go in some direction that I wasn't expecting, or not I wasn't expecting, but something completely different, something that would justify all this kind of hype. But it kind of turned into a slasher movie to some degree towards the end, which of course isn't a bad thing. But but anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet, but a lot of people are saying, oh, it's the next Malignant. Now I've got this hype going on that I feel I'm going to be let down with.
Yeah, I can see why they may say it's the next Malignant, although hasn't really got that. It hasn't, well, I don't think it's giving anything away to say there's no kind of supernatural element to it at all, unlike Malignant. But well, thank you, Nathan. Anything else you've seen?
I watched Terrifier Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's could have used more gore.
Yeah, it was very light on the gore, I thought.
No, it's actually an extremely gory movie. Probably the first time I've seen someone decapitate someone, hollow out their head, and serve Halloween candy in it. That was a very interesting moment. Art the Clown is back, killing, and he seems to really enjoy making people suffer as much as possible. I remember one of the original thoughts that I had was that it focused a lot on the brutality, and it just kind of turned me off. But I have since given it a rewatch, and while yes, it does focus on it, I read an interview with the director, and he was just talking about how over the top the death scenes are, and I tend to agree. Just with watching it again, I mean, some of this stuff, it's like, okay, this person would already be dead. How are they still alive? It's kind of silly, and in that respect. But I still think that Art is a scary villain. I I was a little thrown at first by the ending to the film. It gets kind of supernatural and stuff. So I was like, I didn't know that I necessarily expected it to go that route, but it did. And I mean, I didn't mind it, because I think my biggest problem with the first Terrifier is that they make art seem so invincible that I don't feel that anybody that went up against him was a good adversary to him. So it just that just kind of takes away from me. I want, like, I like my villain and my hero of the picture to be, a good adversaries for each other. And I just didn't think there was one in the original. In this one, there is, though, because she through this supernatural thing actually, is a good protagonist in the film, and does go up against art later, and and stuff. So I mean, I liked that aspect of it a lot. So I will say yes, that I liked Terrifier 2 probably more than the first one. But on the downside, I do feel that it's just a bit long for me. I heard that the next one the director's going to do is going to be he's going to do a Terrifier 3, but he might break it up into 2 films. And I think that's probably a better idea than to do the 2.5 hour one. I mean, I was never bored. Don't get me wrong. I was never bored, but it just comes a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like it could wrap up now. But it's not. So, just stuff like that. But overall, no, I enjoyed it, and I hope that it, can become some kind of a series. I think that, the more horror, the better. So I'm all for it.
Okay. Erik, have you seen that one?
I have, yeah. Parts of it I did like. I thought the gore was well done. It was outrageous and over the top in kind of a Hatchet kind of way. But as Nathan was saying, it does really dwell on the suffering of its victims, which for a over-the-top gory film like this, it was kind of strange that I felt uneasy with some of the murder scenes. Because as I said, you have these people who are, you don't necessarily call them likable because they're kind of wafer-thin characters, but you feel like, well, they don't deserve to, be left alive as they're being skinned or having their limbs chopped off. And the 2-hour 20 running time is very excessive. It's not something I'd watch again, but I can see why people like this one. I imagine myself as kind of a 16-year-old watching Terrifier 2 and really getting a thrill out of the gore. But the 48-year-old me is kind of, a bit uneasy at the watching all these people suffer, because it's not fun. It's kind of a mixture of Saw and Hatchet in places, which is a weird combo, really. So, but yeah, I recommended viewing. I think if you're enthusiastic about special effects, definitely seek this one out, because the effects are astonishing. But otherwise, 2 hours 20, no. I mean, Nathan, you're saying he's doing 2 films for part 3, splitting part 3 into 2 films, but are they going to be 2 films that are 2.5 hours long, or two films that are 90 minutes long?
And I don't know if that's even the case. It's just something I read, so I can't confirm it. But yeah, I don't know. It may be a 5-hour experience.
Yeah, it's all the rage at the moment. Like Twilight did it, and so did Harry Potter.
There's a way of spending extra profits, isn't it? Of course, this one is a film that keeps on growing at the box office I think was it 250,000 budget, and it's kind of made, it keeps its gross keeps going up week on week rather than going down week on week. So but Joseph, have you seen? Is there any interest in watching Terrifier 2?
I have seen Terrifier and Terrifier 2. God, he's going to make more Art the Clown films. I mean, honestly, I don't really remember it. I mean, I watched it, I don't know, about a week ago maybe, and I remember the outstanding gore effects, but that's all there is to it. I don't find Art interesting. I don't find his victims interesting. Like you said, they linger on the suffering, and it's not fun. And 2.5 hours, I mean, 20 minutes with Art, as it's a short film, that's one thing. 2.5 hours, no. I'm just not an Art the Clown fan, if I'm honest.
Well, fair enough. For me, I saw it as well, and I probably enjoyed it a bit more, in so much that although the gore, it does linger, but for me, it gets to so extreme that it gets quite funny. It's so over the top and so silly that that it kind of has, but it kind of goes that line between funny and disturbing, which I think is what clowns do. For the whole thing about a clown, seeing a clown in a circus is one thing, and seeing a clown at midnight is something completely different. And for me, I do like the clown character. I do. For me, the problem with the film was its excessive running time, which felt a bit self-indulgent, if I'm honest. And I don't think it warranted that kind of the length of that running time. The kind of ending, I need to rewatch it. I haven't reviewed it yet on Hysteria Lives yet because I thought I kind of need to rewatch it and digest that ending first to see if I like the way it was going. So I'm planning to maybe give it a rewatch this week coming.
Did you review the first Terrifier?
No, I didn't actually. No. So I might go back and I don't know. I'll see. I've got a few other things, fingers in the pie with films at the moment. So I'm sure I'll get around to them eventually. I mean, there was All Hallows Eve as well, wasn't there? Which was the anthology that predated Terrifier and Terrifier 2 that Art the Clown was in. I think he may even been, the character might have been in another film. So I mean, I'm kind of like I'm really we're kind of living in slightly halcyon days as far as horror goes at the moment because there's so much going, and horror has been one of the hot tickets after the pandemic at the American box office, which means that and traditionally horror is always kind of relatively lower budget to a higher profit when they hit to bloated superhero movies, budgets in hundreds of millions. If you can make a horror film for a fraction of that and you get a hit, then you make a much bigger profit, or percentage wise anyway. So it looks like we are in a slightly halcyon time for horror movies, which is great. But yeah, I'm kind of undecided on Terrifier 2. I kind of need to kind of rewatch it perhaps.
Well, I have to give my hats off to the guy. I mean, he released it at just the right time, and it's getting all this buzz and theater distribution, and it's making a lot of money. I mean, that's great. It's awesome, actually. I just don't care for the art character. I don't get it.
Well, it's got that whole classic ballyhoo thing, isn't it? Of kind of the old ways of getting people to watch movies by saying people are throwing up, and the old Mark for the Devil kind of vomit bags. Not that they've got vomit bags, but I can imagine they might do that for Terrifier 3. Is get a free Art the Clown vomit bag when you go in. So it's funny how that works, and it actually kind of gets people to it's kind of become that kind of water cooler moment for a horror franchise, which. It's kind of fun to see, even if you're not a huge fan of the film. It's kind of it's really fun to see the horror is having its kind of moment in the sun again, which obviously I'm very much for. So okay, well, Nathan, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Aside from stuff that we're covering.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Erik. How about you?
Yeah, the other one I saw was Smile, which is that new, I suppose, curse movie, you would call it, which again is another film that's arrived on our shores with, a good deal of hype and mainly positive reviews. And I really liked this one. Its vibe is very similar to It Follows in that it kind of is an intelligent sort of take on The Ring or The Grudge or one of those type of films. It's sort of semi-art house feel to it. So the premise is that there's a nurse played by Kevin Bacon's daughter. I can't think of what her first name is off the top of my head, but it's Kevin Bacon's daughter is the lead in this film, and she's really good. And she is given this assignment of this patient. She's a she's a psychologist or a counselor or something, but she meets this girl who's terrified, and she says that there's this supernatural being after her, and she turns her back on her for a second, and when she turns back, this woman has this strange smile on her face, and she slits her own throat and collapses, and this sets in the wheels in motion of the plot, which is basically like The Ring, that the nurse has the curse, which is an unfortunate turn of phrase by me. I apologize. And she has to try and figure out, what's at the core of this and how can she stop it and why is it happening. So that part of the film is very like The Ring. The actual threat of the supernatural is very like It Follows. And I thought it worked really well. Now it does have quite a long running time. I think it's just under 2 hours long, but again I felt it justified, and it has a pretty darn impressive ending as well. So it's a big thumbs up for me for Smile. I really liked it. But then again, I like these kind of sort of quote curse movies, like Ring, Grudge, Ouija, Origin of Evil. I thought was good, and some of the other ones. Anyone else seen Smile?
I haven't yet. No, it's not come to streaming yet, has it? It's not come to streaming yet. I don't think so. It's not played on screens here.
I haven't seen it. I really want to. I was very impressed with the marketing campaign for it.
That was brilliant, wasn't it? I thought it was excellent. Sorry, I saw one other film. Joseph, did you see Smile?
No, I kind of want to see it, but I'm really curious how you saw it, Eric.
Cinema.
Can you explain that to us,
I went to
please?
the cinema.
You said it wasn't released yet.
It is released. Justin asked if it was released to streaming.
Okay.
Another film I saw in the cinema was Pearl, which is the prequel to X, the Ty West film, and it's excellent. It's really, really good. Again, it's arrived with a lot of positive publicity behind it. Meep actually recommended this one to me, so thank you, Meep. Mia Goth is in it playing Mia Goth. Just what Justin says when he looks in the mirror.
Oh, Erik.
No. Are Joseph Bottoms, do you?
Yes.
Ooh.
The power, Erik. The power.
Pearl, of course, is the old lady that we meet in X, and this is her origin story. So it's set in days of yore. I think it's in the late 20s. And just Mia Goth is sensational in it. There's one scene where she has to give a soliloquy that goes on for about 5 minutes in one take, and it's just breathtaking, really. Her character is really, really sympathetic, even though she's kind of a murderer. Well, she's not kind of a murderer, she is a murderer. Her character is really sympathetic. She's got this kind of Sissy Spacek as Carrie thing going on, and it's just... She's just so good in it that she just carries the film all on her own. It didn't even need any horror element to it. It could have played as a drama and I still would have loved it because she's just magnetic in the lead. And I urge you all to watch it because there is some murderous mayhem within there. But yeah, I just thought it was a great movie. I'm looking forward to watching it again. Has anyone seen Pearl?
No, but I really want to because I really liked X.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll really like this one because this one is shot, it has a very strange aesthetic to it. It's shot like a 1940s Technicolor movie, so it's really kind of bright and vibrant, and it's got this brilliant end shot that's, I don't quite know what it means, but it's just brilliant. Yeah, so it looks amazing, and, Mia Goth is amazing in it, and I just loved it.
What about you, Joseph? Have you seen Pearl yet?
No, I really, really loved X, and I'm looking forward to Pearl. It is on my watch list at the very top, so I may be able to talk about it on the next episode.
Cool. Okay. I still need to revisit X after I fell asleep in the cinema, so I haven't seen Pearl yet because I'm waiting to do that. But all good. So anything else, Erik?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you. Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, the only thing I've seen, and I'm not sure if we talked about it on the last episode or not, but I saw the Terror Train remake.
Oh, yeah.
And if you hadn't seen the OG Terror Train, I suspect you might enjoy this one. And for being about, I guess, 80% shot for shot, this one isn't bad, I guess. I mean, it's so bland and vanilla compared to the original. I mean, it kind of aches for a really good cinematographer, which it doesn't have, and it doesn't really utilize the confined space of the train very well. It also kind of kowtows to kind of current social issues, and maybe wisely bypasses repeating the ending of the original film, so as I guess not to offend anyone. And it's littered with no one I've ever heard of, and for probably good reason, though I must admit the actor playing the role of Doc, he was pretty effective in that Hart Bachner sort of way. But I mean, in all honesty, I just didn't believe the setup as it relates to the world of today, changing the ending or not. I mean, I felt these kids, they felt very now, and I'm not sure if I buy them attending a costume party aboard a moving train like I would in 1980. I mean, that's just something that does not feel now in the slightest. It just feels like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. But having said that, there's nothing offensively bad about the movie, and it is perfectly watchable in a kind of throwaway sort of manner. The reconstructed ending, it also gets points for trying to outdo something like Urban Legend in the teeth gnashing department, and the kills are a bit gorier here. And, overall, if you have nothing better to do on a rainy Sunday afternoon, I think this one might hit the spot, and I guess it sort of did for me, though I don't know. I seriously doubt I'll ever see it again. So it's kind of middle of the road, maybe slightly below middle of the road. I don't know. I can't quite recommend it, but I can't condemn it either, if that makes any sense.
I kind of felt the same way about it. I thought it was perfectly fine, but it's not something I would be rushing out to watch again, although I'm sure we will if we cover it in years to come on the Hysteria Continues. I thought it was perfectly fine. Like, as you said, the first 2/3 are very close to the original, so it does feel almost like a shot-for-shot remake in places. But it was, to be honest, when I don't know what direct to Tubi, is it Tubi? Is the Tubi or whatever you pronounce it? That's what it was made for. So I'm not sure what the caliber of film that's made specifically for that platform is like usually. But my expectations were quite low. I was expecting maybe a Sci-Fi Channel level of movie, and it's a bit better than that.
Yeah, I mean, Tubi is very niche in what they release, so you would think they wouldn't have the budget to back it up, but it actually looked pretty good considering it's a straight to streaming release, especially a platform that not a lot of people have heard of. It actually looks pretty good, for what it is. I mean, it's like you said, it's just okay, I guess.
Have you seen it, Nathan?
No, not yet. I really want to because I think I'm going to really like it, but no, I haven't.
I mean, I kind of echo, I've reviewed it for Hysteria Lives, and I kind of echo what Erik and Joseph say, at least for the first half of it, where it feels very Halloween remake light, where everything's done in a kind of, it's got that kind of straight to streaming kind of sheen, where everything looks a bit, that whole kind of, it's not exactly the same thing, but that motion sampling you get on new TVs, where everything looks slightly unreal. And it doesn't exactly look like that, but it's got everything's very flat. And I think it's John Alcott did the cinematography on the original, and he'd worked with Stanley Kubrick, and so he'd got this kind of amazing. It felt a very higher budget than it actually was, whereas this feels very flat. Having said that, it kind of annoyed me. I felt myself zoning out for the first half because it was really pretty much not exactly shot for shot, but certainly beat for beat remake. But I did like how it went off the rails, literally, towards the end, and changing up the killer was a welcome surprise. I thought the killer, I'm not going to give it away here, obviously, was teeth gnashingly, scenery chewingly good. And also I did actually welcome the fact that it looked like they were setting up for a Terror Train 2. So who knows?
I wish I could talk more about it because I would like to spoil it because Nathan hasn't seen it, so I can't. But without spoiling it, I kind of like what they did with the Kenny character that gets caught up in the prank at the beginning. I like his I guess you'd call it his outcome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found it like, okay, that's what you're doing with Kenny. When you see it, Nathan, you'll understand, but it's kind of funny.
It is kind of funny to think that why the Kenny character would be on the train in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, we won't give any more away, but is anything else?
Just that and Terrifier 2. That's it.
Okay. Right. Apologies, you can hear a dog barking in the background.
Yes, I was wondering what that was. I thought it might have been Nathan's menagerie.
No, it's one of our next door neighbours. Got I think one of the neighbourhood cats. We call him Grease, who comes round to menace our cats, has just been on the wall. So I had to quickly go out and shoo him away. And it sets.
Why do you
off.
call him Grease?
Well, because he's grey. He's Grease in Spanish. That's his not his.
Oh, okay.
His real name is something which I can't pronounce, but he sets up. Then he's a chain reaction of setting off next door's dog barking, but she seems to have calmed down now. Anyway, so apologies.
I thought he was called Grease because he looked like John Travolta or something. No.
He's got like a black quiff and wears black leathers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here to upset your dogs. That's what I'm doing.
So. A couple of other films, just quickly mention that I've also reviewed on Hysteria Lives recently. One was Children of Sin, both from this year by Christopher Wesley Moore, who is a director, and also he's another fellow podcaster. He does the great podcast, Homos on Haunted Hill. I think that's what it's called. And he's done. He works with very, very low budgets. I mean, this has cost about $20,000. But talking about sort of tackling kind of modern social issues rather than it kind of being sprinkled through Terror Train in almost slightly awkward kind of way. He actually kind of takes one kind of social issue and it kind of extends it. And he's done it with like films like Triggered about kind of cancel culture and Suffer the Children about abortion activists. All wrapped up within a kind of slasher movie kind of template, I kind of guess. And Children of Sin is very similar in so much that it's about conversion therapy centres where kind of gay or binary, well, sort of non-binary or gender fluid teenagers or girls who are pregnant out of wedlock are sent to be converted into, well, basically kind of pillars of Christ, I kind of guess. And this is all wrapped up within kind of a slash movie network. So it's quite similar in the way to the Kevin Bacon They Them, which is also out this year. And I thought this did it better. Again, a little bit slow moving to start off with, but it kind of ends with this kind of rip-roaring, axe swinging sort of bloody finale, which I very much kind of appreciated. And actually, it features, and I meant to write her name down, but it's the woman who played DJ in Scalps, plays the kind of the villain in this. So that was fun. Any of you guys seen Children of Sin?
No.
Not yet. Chris is a good guy.
He's a good guy.
I thought Triggered was a little long, but I loved the performances in that film. So, I do want to see Children of Sin. Although, Chris, I'm sorry, I gotta mention something. Every time I see your Children of Sin poster, for some reason, the dude who's running away from the house looks like the angry video game nerd. I don't know if anyone else has picked up on that, but I just wanted to point that out to you, Chris. But I will see your movie eventually.
I do like the poster. It's a real throwback poster. It's very kind of 80s hand-drawn inspired. Justin, was that an actress you're thinking of, Joanne Robinson?
That's the one, yes. Yeah, she's it's another one. I think it's streaming on Tubi as well, so you can catch it on there. But talking of streaming movies, a Shudder original, which I watched the other day without knowing anything about, and another one I reviewed on Hysteria Lives this week, is Sissy, which is an Australian black comedy, basically lampooning influencer culture. And I really, really liked this. I thought it was really well done, very dark comedy. So the basic premise is this kind of woman who is has 200,000 followers on Instagram, who is a kind of wellness guru and positivity guru, but in real life she just schleps around her flat eating days-old pizza and is very depressed. And she meets up with her...
Is she me?
She could be. Is that what you do? Are you a wellness guru, Eric?
No, not quite. No. But I do schlep around eating day-old pizza.
Well, we all do that.
In my underpants. No, the pizza's not in my underpants.
Oh.
I was about to say, how do you sit?
Yeah. But anyway, she meets up with an old friend, childhood friend, who they were like BFFs back when they were like 12 years old, and her friend invites her to a hen party and also to a weekend away with her friends, and she becomes increasingly marginalised and feels like a bit of a spare wheel. And I won't give anything else away apart from to say, obviously, murders start happening in incredibly gory kind of ways. There's like someone's head squished under a tyre, someone's scalped in a jacuzzi. I love the premise. It's just so jet black because it's all these really self-obsessed kind of influencer types who are just really so self-obsessed they don't even really notice anything's happening, that people are dying. So it really lampoons and it's kind of merciless, but it's also got that kind of slightly very peculiar to Australia, that kind of vein of black comedy that runs through some of the kind of the best Australian horror movies and black comedies. So yeah, I really, really liked it. It's kind of very well done. So any of you guys seen it?
No.
I hadn't heard of it at all until you reviewed it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely one to check out. It's talking about going to movies completely blind. It may have benefited it, but I thought it was kind of razor sharp kind of satire, but also, again, wrapped up in that kind of slasher movie template, and just goes to show that slasher movie will never die because it can constantly be reinvented in kind of interesting ways. And so, obviously, given that pretty much all the films we talked about now so far have all been from this year, it just goes to show how, what a boon time we're living in for horror movies, slasher movies, which is obviously great. So, unfortunately, that means we're moving on to our pick of the week.
Beverly Hills, a city of wealth, power, and glamour. It's also a town of vicious murders where the high-priced world of real estate is the victim. Realtors and their clients are being knocked off as quickly as the stock market fluctuates. The only person who has any kind of local lead, or any kind of lead, rather, is radio talk show host, psychologist Dr. David Kelly, played by Joseph Bottoms. Who solicits his audience reaction to the murder. Amid the barrage of phone calls comes one from Harry. Harry states with frightening conviction that the murder victims deserve to be killed. Meanwhile, Kelly's girlfriend Lisa, played by Adrienne Barbeau, is horrified as the most successful realtor in town. Lisa and her staff are prime targets. Her competition becomes smaller and smaller as more people are killed, thus bringing the murderer closer to Lisa. Open House is a terrifying look at the dark side of a city where sunshine mixes with business as the key to prosperity. You'll never want to move again. And that's the back of the VHS, Prism VHS for Open House. So Open House was one that when I first watched it, I was disappointed. I think I was really in the mood for just a Friday the 13th style slasher because the artwork definitely looks like it could be. But it definitely leads more into the police procedural. I know that's part of it. And then, of course, the main character is a radio psychologist. So there's a lot of, psychology of dealing with the killer. That kind of stuff, in all honesty, just doesn't really do much for me. But now the scenes with the killer, I think, are hilarious, and I have to give it to the actors. Like they really go all out with their performances. The real estate agent in the beginning, when she finds the dead body, I thought that was completely hysterical. I was laughing so hard, and just this close up of her screaming face, and it just it's just really funny if you watch it. I love the death scene with the toilet plunger with the razor blades in the end of the handle. Although I found it very funny that these two people, there's two of them and one of the killer, and they literally just kind of lay back and wait on him to slash them to death, which, he does. There's, an electrocution scene, and it was fine. I think overall with Open House is that I do like it a lot more than I did back in the day, but I feel that it definitely could have improved. It could have been better.
No.
But that's not to say that I don't enjoy it very much for what it is. I love the killer, and I love at the end when the killer's given his motive, he says something about how he takes care of the houses. And I'm like, are you kidding me? In the very beginning, you left a half open can of dog food in the kitchen floor and it had ants all over the place. That's not taking care of your house. So I kind of think the killer was a little hypocritical there. Just my opinion.
That was the least of his problems.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was also very upset because nobody would let him live in a house. He couldn't get a house, so he was a squatter.
And he also he knew he saw the writing on the wall. He's going to have to appear in Police Academy 6 soon.
And he also knew that with a shower, he would be right up Eric's alley.
He'd be straight up Eric's alley.
But yeah, it's definitely a paint by numbers kind of movie. But like I said, I still enjoy it. I think it's fun and ridiculous. I don't really feel like Adrienne Barbeau is given much to do except be the kind of damsel in distress at the end. So, I would have preferred her to have a more, active role at the end of the film rather than just being in that role. But, it is what it is. But anyway, open house. I'm going to start with you, Justin.
Oh, well, Nathan, I did review it back and I looked, it was almost, well, it was 10 years ago, and I gave it 1 star out of 5. And I think, when I said about sometimes I've looked back and I've done this vault face and sort of found something to enjoy in a movie more than I did back then. Sadly, Nathan, that isn't the case with Open House. I enjoy the cheesy bits in it. I think the opening scene, the opening scene is strange because it feels like when I remember watching it the first time, again, I was watching it again, I'm thinking it feels like it's going to be a straight-ahead thriller with something slightly more serious tone, although you have Joseph Bottoms making the paper airplane as that girl's on the telephone line because he's playing this kind of agony uncle, I kind of guess, DJ. And he's making his paper airplane showing he's kind of bored, and then she kind of shoots herself dead in the phone box. And it had this kind of weird kind of gravitas that the rest of the movie really doesn't have. But it goes into that fantastic scene with the estate agent played by Morgan Fairchild's younger sister. And I did love that whole thing of the screaming kind of looking, she finds a dead body and it cuts between her screaming back to dead body and over it. It keeps going on and on and on. All the while she's got a fly stuck to her face. And I think if the rest of the movie had kind of gone along on that kind of route, then I enjoyed it more. I think reading back the original review, it just seems like it was all over the place. It seemed to spend an inordinate amount of time on the not very convincing relationship between Adrian Barbeau and Joseph Bottoms. And at some point it felt more like a romantic comedy than a horror movie or even a thriller. The police investigation side of things didn't really add much to it either. So it kind of, it felt very episodic. I mean, when we get into the background, and I couldn't find a great deal about this, but apparently there were, it was a film that needed a lot of reshoots, which may explain why it's a bit of a mess. But overall, bar some cheesy bits, including the ending, which was so over the top ridiculous, where the killer has his brains blown out but then comes back to life. It's so ridiculous, but it just felt like, for me, it was kind of tonally, it was just completely all over the place. I didn't know if we wanted to be Arthur or Martha. So unfortunately for me, Nathan, I did try. I went in with an open mind because certainly, as I mentioned before, I have in the past, found a renewed interest and a new love of films that I reviewed and thought they were terrible. And this one, I'm pretty confident I can stick to my original review. So can't win them all.
No, this is true. Joseph?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this for a very long time, so I wasn't sure what to expect when you chose it. And, like Justin, I feel like this is 3 or 4 different movies fighting for airtime. You've got the general through line of real estate agents being killed by a psychopath, and then you have one of those plots with the killer calling into a radio station to brag about his killing. And, of course, this being a late 80s venture, we also have a cop investigating the killer. And on their own, a lot of those sequences actually yield some fun moments. For instance, I absolutely love the side plot with the scumbag Resnick, that unscrupulous real estate agent who's kind of Adrian Barbeau's nemesis. I mean, he's one of those characters who's so despicable and gross that you can't wait for him to get his comeuppance. I love the scene where he goes to solicit this lady selling her house, who turns out to be this dominatrix. And she's like, and I'm paraphrasing here, she's like, if you want this listing, you're going to have kinky sex with me. And I'm like, what kind of quid pro quo is this? I mean, these sound like things that only benefit him. I mean, it's so ridiculous and slimy and stuff like that I really like. The slasher plot, honestly, I found kind of boring. I think it's ultimately because this film really doesn't know how to get to the point. You have endless scenes of characters discussing the plot in this mundane kind of a how was your day sort of manner, and it goes on and on and on and on. Like, I don't need to see the characters arguing over the ethics of tapping the phone at the radio station. Just tap the line, for God's sakes, get to the point. And I think that's the film's problem, really, is that it doesn't know how to tie its multiple threads together in any sort of way that would engage the viewer on a slasher level. I mean, I love movies that use this shtick with killers phoning radio stations, like Play Misty for Me, Psycho 4, and there's a really good one for the 90s called Power 98 with Eric Roberts that I like. But this one, I mean, it takes a real long time to lead to basically a cheap riff on that whole the calls are coming from inside the house shtick. This one, the calls are coming from inside the radio station, but it's, it just doesn't have that same oomph. The slasher story inside the various empty houses, I think I appreciated the houses more than the killings or the completely uninteresting killer. In fact, one thing I absolutely loved about Open House was the interiors and all the off-white circular couches, and you have egg lamps, and my God, everything has some sort of wood grain appendage or two. Even the vehicles have like this faux wood grain inside the cars. I mean, I love stuff like that. The atmosphere in retrospect just screams 1986 or 1987, and like I said, I absolutely love that kind of stuff. And, of course, Adrienne Barbeau and Joseph Bottoms both have varying degrees of big hair, so that's always a plus. But I don't know, I didn't hate Open House, and it was better than I remembered it being, but I just feel like the pieces were there for something better. I liked the bits, leading to a story, more than I did the overall story, if I'm honest. Not bad, but
All right. Erik.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Open House for the first time probably about 10 years ago, which is when Justin was reviewing it, and I couldn't remember anything about it, so rewatching it, I can understand why I didn't remember anything about it. I don't think it's a bad film. It's quite well made, which surprised me. It has that kind of mid-tier quality to it, and it's got Adrienne Barbeau in one of the leads, so production values are higher than say something like The Newly Deads or Axum or that, but I just found the film really unremarkable. It's neither too bad nor too good to sort of stick in the memory, and my overall thought on the film is that it was a bit boring. I thought that opening was strange with the girl ringing in who shoots herself live on air. Now, does that have anything to do with the plot? Did I miss something? Because I thought maybe a relative of hers might turn out to be the killer or something, but she...
No, I think, like Justin said, they're trying to add pathos to the Joseph Bottoms character, but it just doesn't ring true.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Because that plot goes nowhere, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Justin. I thought that was a very somber beginning for what is kind of a light and occasionally humorous tone that the film has. It's kind of bubbly after that scene. What I did like about the film was that it does feel very 1987. You've got huge bubble hair perms and shoulder pads and puffy sleeves, and you have those computer printouts that had the perforated edges, which takes me back in time. The character...
the dot matrix.
That's the dot matrix printer, yes, of course. How could I forget that was what it was called? Yeah. Yeah, and like you, Joseph, I thought the character of Barney Resnick was kind of fun. He's real cartoony. He was like an obese Skeletor kind of... I'm not sure how he manages to stay in business.
Oh, that's a good description. I love that.
Thank you. I'm not sure how he manages to stay in business, though. I mean, he hasn't really nailed down the acting professional shtick at all, has he? And that estate agent at the start that we've all mentioned, who screams a lot, I thought that was fantastic. I didn't realise it was Morgan Fairchild's sister, though. So there she goes. She has two claims to fame then. I suppose there's a variety of murder methods, which is welcome in this one. You got the electrocution, the razor blade plunger, and there's a severed head gag that's quite good. But the whole thing is just devoid of any kind of threat or suspense. I suppose the film's a bit too breezy for its own good. I found myself reaching for the phone to see what was happening on social media and that during the sort of more languid parts of the film, which was quite a lot of the running time, to be fair. I suppose too much time was spent on kind of soap opera shenanigans within the world of estate agents, and there's a lot of time spent on the detectives, and they don't end up doing a lot in the film. In hindsight, I think it would have been better just to focus on Joseph Bottoms, and Adrienne King doing their kind of own detective work rather than...
Barbeau.
What should I say?
King.
Oh, sorry, Adrian King on the brain. Adrian Barbeau. Sorry.
It's usually you correcting Justin, not me correcting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would have preferred them to do their own detective work and just leave the police out of it altogether, which is kind of what the Giallo does normally. And I thought the music in it for a lot of the film was really, it was not music really for a horror film. I'm assuming it was like library music they got, but some of it sounded like, and I suppose it's quite fitting that it sounded like a property renovation program, the kind of music they'd have while they're showing a montage of people, you know, demolishing a wall or putting in a window or something. And I thought the ending really reminded me of Halloween, because the killer looks like Loomis if Loomis hadn't had a shower for a few weeks. A few months even, and he falls off the balcony after being shot. So I thought that was kind of Halloween influenced. But yeah, overall the film's just a bit bland for my liking. As everyone except for Nathan has said, I think the ingredients are there for a fun slasher movie, but it just doesn't gel for me. And it's 97 minutes, which is very drawn out. It could have lost about 20 of those, I think. I mean, there's a housing crisis going on in Dublin at the moment with a lot of people priced out of the market. So it probably is foreshadowing that a bit. So you have to give it kudos for having a message as such, but it's a boring message. So, yeah. Sorry, Nathan. I did enjoy the Newly Deads, though.
Yes. I mean, that was very important to me. The Newly Deads was a little bit more important to me, so...
I like the central idea is a kind of, a house... estate agents being bumped off one by one isn't necessarily a bad one, and the idea that the killer's motivation is so loopy that it's just because he's been priced out of the market, then that in itself is kind of fun. I mean, to do, when it got to the point that you're talking about the end being a bit like Halloween, where the killer gets shot through the forehead, and he does that kind of Michael Myers style eyes opening, sits up, and as he sits up, all his brains are splattered on the pavement behind him. It's kind of like, it's almost like the filmmakers just sort of, fuck it, we whatever, we'll just do what we want now. And it's just so silly. But it's just kind of, if the rest of the movie was, and those glorious bits like with the estate agent finding the body in the bathtub, and the killing with the toilet plunger with the couple in the bathroom who just stand there and get slashed to death and make absolutely no attempt to run away. If the rest of the movie had been like that, it's just, I think Joseph Bottoms and Adrian Barbeau thought they were in a different movie. It's, even like there's a bit towards the end when Joseph Bottoms does this kind of like, I think when he thinks Adrian Barbeau's missing or whatever, he kind of goes into this kind of mini speech where he's kind of doing some real ham acting and sort of like breaking down and screaming. I think he probably thought he was in a different movie to the one that we actually got. But and that very well may have been the case considering some of the background I've dug up. So, Nathan, anything left you want to say about On Open House before we talk about some background?
No, I think we've covered it.
Okay, so were you pleasantly surprised or disappointed with the general consensus?
I was. My expectations were met.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. So, well, do you have any background for this, Nathan?
I've got a little. Adrian Barbeau acted in this movie so she could pay for her son's tuition fees.
But she was married to John Carpenter, and John Carpenter, in my research for our Halloween commentary, which is available on Patreon now, I discovered that he had a percentage stake in the earnings of Halloween. So he was not poor. So I can't see why poor Adrian, unless it was a son she had from a different marriage, maybe.
Or perhaps they kept their finances separate.
Maybe, yeah.
So it's a bit like Betsy Palmer doing Friday the 13th so she could buy a new car. But then it's kind of strange, isn't it? Because all actors and actresses take roles because they need to do, make a living, don't they? So, yeah, strange bit of trivia that. I did see that. It keeps on popping up.
I did anal paprika to buy my Xbox.
I thought you denied you were in that. Or was it part 2?
He denied that he was in the sequels.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, Nathan, continue.
Thank you. The writer of the film was also the writer and director of The Sandlot. Now, that was probably the biggest surprise for me, trivia-wise. And lastly, the radio station scenes were shot at Los Angeles radio stations KRTH/KHJ-KEARTH 101.
Why can't they just call it Radio 2?
Well, thank you, Nathan. You can close the tab on IMDb now.
How dare you?
Eric, how about you?
Okay. Well, I found an interview from Days of Yore with Jag Mundra, who's the director. Now, he sadly passed away in 2011, so this must have been from the noughties sometime. But he was, at the time of Open House, he had been teaching at a college in Los Angeles, and he was working evenings as a clerk in a production company's shipping department. And it was whilst working there that he wrote a 4-page treatment for a film called Multiple Listings. And the receptionist at the production company he was working at was Sandy Cobb's daughter. So this is how he made contact with the producer, Sandy Cobb, and the script was fleshed out and the title changed to Open House. And Jag offered the script for free on the proviso that he could direct it. So apparently there was friction between producer and director, and Sandy Cobb went in and directed his own pickup shots after the film. And Jag Mundra has described these as very obvious patches on the movie, is how he described it. And his meddling was so bad that the director wanted to remove his name from the film, although he was talked out of it. And he later said that he's proud of the film because Daily Variety said that for a very low budget film, it was very well directed. So yeah, he was happy with that. Timothy Bottoms is the brother of the late Sam Bottoms, whose Willie we saw in Up From the Depths, which was a film we covered on Patreon. And you can see Sam Bottoms' Willie in it. Oh, Joseph Bottoms.
How many Bottoms are there?
There's 3. There's Timothy as well. Sorry, Joseph Bottoms, who's in this film, is the brother of Sam Bottoms, whose Willie you can see in Up From the Depths. Now, I saw this on... I think this was on IMDb as well. You missed this bit of trivia, Nathan, but the actor Darwin Swalve, who plays the dreamy killer, he passed away on May the 5th, 1999 from a heart attack, and his wife passed away on the same day, it said, which is weird. It was given an 18 certificate in the UK on the 29th of December 1987 and was released on VHS to the Brave World label. And it was released on VHS in Spain and Greece under the translated title of Panic in Beverly Hills. Another thing from IMDb is that it says that although I couldn't find a trailer, Joseph couldn't find a trailer anywhere, it has Kane Hodder listed in IMDb as the narrator of the trailer, which it's an odd one because he was a full-time stuntman at the time. I don't think he had any acting credits really apart from stunt work. I found an interesting Japanese poster for Open House as well, with a woman's skull split open and you can see all brains and goo inside of it, and there's a house in the middle of the two halves of her head, which is a very interesting poster and much more gaudy than what we got in the UK, which was just a picture of a front door with RIP written on it or something like that. And finally, Jag Mundra went on to direct Hack-a-Lantern, which didn't we cover Hack-a-Lantern?
Yeah, I think so.
And he did the Jigsaw Murders as well, and then went on to do sort of softcore stuff with titles like Sexual Malice, Irresistible Impulse, and prefiguring a very big movie that came out recently. He also directed a 1997 film called Shades of Grey. Mary Staven, who plays Katie Thatcher in this movie, I don't know which one Katie Thatcher is, but she was also in A View to a Kill and House, which is a film that you'll find in the House box set from Arrow. She also played the Statue of Liberty in the video for Adam and the Ants' classic 1981 hit Ant-Trap.
She's the one. I was going to say, sorry. She's the one that gets slashed to death with a toilet plunger in the bathroom with the man.
Oh, is she? Okay, yeah, excellent. And Rudy Ramos, who plays Rudy in the film, I think he's one of the people who works at the radio station. He was also in Beverly Hills Cop 2 this year. So, yeah, from the large to the small, from the sublime to the ridiculous for that actor. And that's all I have. Justin?
Me? Or what about Joseph? Let's see what you've got.
Yeah, I think this bypassed a theatrical release altogether, went straight to video via Prism Entertainment in 1987.
I find that very difficult to believe.
Yeah, me too. For my research, I was able to find multiple late night showings on both HBO and Cinemax. HBO in particular as early as May of 1988 and running through 1989, if not earlier than that. And apparently this was, I can't really confirm this because I haven't seen her entire filmography, but apparently this was Adrienne Barbeau's first foray into topless nudity. If anyone can confirm that and write in, great, because I don't think I can go back and watch her entire filmography to, confirm that or not. But yeah, she'd always tried to avoid doing nudity apparently, and this was the film that got her to do it. I don't see how, but it must have been a good paycheck. But that's all I have as well.
Okay, well, thank you. A few other bits to add. Obviously, Sandy Cope as the producer that brought us the likes of To All a Good Night, Home Sweet Home, and Terror on Tour, which were the kind of slasher movies that the quickie slasher movies that kind of cashed in on the success of Halloween and later Friday the 13th. So you can see what kind of movie he might have been wanting to make, and can see there may have been some kind of clash between director and producer. But Catherine Hart, who was the little sister of Morgan Fairchild, who had previously appeared in The Seduction, along with her sister, Open House was her last movie, but apparently today she runs a studio where she offers personalized life mentoring and performance coaching. So I wonder if she plays that clip of her in the bathroom screaming over and over with a fly on her face to her prospective clients. I don't know. It was kind of, there was a real, I think we talked a little bit about it, but there was a real kind of thing around this time of the kind of the phone-in sort of erotic thriller slasher movie with the radio station and or using like telephone as the instrument of terror, but in a very particular way, because there's a couple of others films around this time that did a very similar thing. There was Apology from 1986 and also Out of the Dark from 1989, which I think has Divine in it, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so the film apparently was shot in 1986, and I did see that it did get a theatrical release, although looking again, Joseph, I couldn't find anything on the kind of newspaper archives that refer to a theatrical release, so maybe it just bypassed that completely, although possibly it got like a one-off showing somewhere, which sometimes they would do so they could sell it onto video stores, get video stores to buy it by saying theatrically released, so perhaps that was the case. As we've alluded to, or we've said, that Sandy Cope kind of was not pleased with the movie. It was kind of heavily kind of reworked prior to its release. And apparently Tiffany Bolling, who, if you can remember, she was kind of in the Candy Snatchers and Kingdom of Spiders, and she was in the Centerfold Girls as well. She was kind of the kind of early 70s to mid 70s sort of B-movie horror actress who more recently released some very strange videos to YouTube about just go and look at them. But she was convinced into taking the role. She's the one that there's a estate agent who gets hanged in the movie. So she was convinced, apparently, by her husband, Richard Casares, who was the company's senior vice producer, or to basically to take part in reshoots. And it's strange, really, because that scene with her, she's probably has all of 2 minutes or even like a minute and a half, 90 seconds of screen time. But apparently in an interview, her husband told her, we've got to reshoot some of these scenes. They're awful and we need your help to redo this movie. Will you be in it? And apparently she replied, well, can I say no? And clearly she couldn't. The Paige Mosley as Toby, who's the kind of receptionist who answers the phone at the radio station, was, according to IMDb, was a pledge in Girls' Night Out and was also in Edge of the Axe the next year. Christina Galgos, who plays the estate agent, who again I think she gets hanged. She's one of the stage who ends up being killed. She was a Miss California in 1985 and now as a real estate agent in real life, or was until recently. So again, whether or not she has that on her CV for prospective clients, I don't know. But yeah, and apparently there was Jagmundra returned to the serial killer sort of genre in 1995 with a film called Tainted Love, which I've not seen. But it apparently is another kind of slasher movie where the victims are models all use the same health club. So I don't know if you've seen that one, Nathan, Tainted Love from 1995.
No, I haven't.
No. So, well, anyway, that may be another, if we do ever want to revisit the Jagmundra oeuvre, for want of a better term, word, then that's one we can do. But yeah, that's all the background I have on Open House. So, well, Joseph, what was the consensus on the group?
16 comments overall for Open House, and Lou Toad says, I rewatched this after Nathaning out, in quotations, and was surprised at how enjoyable it was. The print I saw was fantastic, too. I was expecting a bad VHS rip quality. Definitely a solid late 80s slasher that fits nicely in with the likes of Cutting Class and Rush Week. Maybe not as good, but definitely carries that same latter half of the Reagan-era feel. And James Packman writes, not very exciting, good, or worthy of a repeat viewing in any form. A terrible snooze fest that feels horribly out of place in the slasher genre. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, thinking we may jump the Twitter ship as we get very little interaction there, and considering all the crap in the news lately, well, if we don't post on there for a while, you'll know why. You can follow us there for the time being if you wish. We're also on Patreon, and this month we'll be discussing for our new commentary feature, Thrills and Spills with a Drill, with the Slumber Party Massacres, our commentary of the month. We also have non-slasher episodes, Fango flashbacks, and our top 3 episodes, and we're heading into our top 3 horrors from 2007 this month, which is pretty decent year for me so far. I don't know about you guys, but we'll find out. Our email address, which also rarely gets any interaction, is thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com.
Excellent. Yeah, and please do write in and let us know what you think. So, and talking of things that get very little interaction.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
So this film was originally going to star Shannon Tweed, and it was going to be called Open Blouse. Open Blouse. Open Blouse?
See, now I love Shannon Tweed, and I love open blouses. But that, Eric, yes, exactly.
Oh, Eric, that wasn't too bad, actually. I think we were just pausing for effect.
You know what,
Yeah,
Eric?
actually,
I
it was
think it
pretty
was
good.
just as good as the movie.
Damning with fake
There you
praise.
go.
Damning with fake praise. So, I take it we have no feedback this time.
No, we haven't had any in a while.
Yeah, please do write in. We do like hearing from you. So, yeah, you know where to contact us. But okay, well, that was Open House. I guess before we just say what we're going to be playing out with, I can discuss what we're talking about next time. So it is one that has been requested, and I was surprised that we haven't covered it. And talking of driller killers, it's the original driller killer Granny from Frightmare, Pete Walker's Frightmare.
Good choice.
Yeah, so we've not covered that yet. So I think that would be a fun one for us to go back to the mid-70s for some sort of serial killer, driller killer, cannibalism grannies, and all sorts of pre-video nasty mayhem. So, okay. So, Nathan, what are we playing out with?
We are going to play out with
He didn't think that far ahead. I mean, how could he? He picked Open House.
I was paying attention
How
to
about Our
Open
House?
House. I'm going with that one.
Okay.
So, a bit of madness.
Seems accurate.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to Hysteria Continues, and yeah, we'll catch you next time. And yeah, look forward to seeing you over on Patreon too. So, thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Our